Predator is curious because, like most people, I like the originals, but the newer ones I'm very skeptical of. So I should be agreeing and laughing along with Mauler, but I don't think either the jokes or the criticisms are as devastating as he's making them out to be. Granted, the rage videos are not really meant to be taken seriously. They're just him going off on these weird tangents, and the editing as well as the quote script is very choppy at best. The idea is fine. I doubt The Predator is actually a good movie. I think the basic gist is fine. There were a lot of plot holes and lots of idiotic moments. But is this really that bad a film? I haven't seen it, but yes, I think there's enough to say this is very, very problematic. But he often returns to this, and we're going to listen to him kind of miss the point, I think, with some of the retcons, which I agree were kind of unnecessary.
I person then says, they're upgrading. And so they head outside and see his Asperger, which prompts him to say, you know, it's pretty amazing how he's managed to learn the alien language and technology. And she responds, you know, a lot of experts say that people who are on the spectrum aren't afflicted with a disorder. They are considered the next step in the evolutionary chain. What the fuck are you doing? You extracted human DNA from the predator and you conclude that they separate the heads from their victims in order to bring them back home and upgrade themselves from it? What the fuck would be the benefit of getting the survival traits from a species you fucking murdered, you dopey tit? That's just silly. What do you mean they are collecting samples of other species? Every film up to this point has shown it's a matter of honor and pride. They clean their trophies and display them. They don't extract DNA. That's just silly.
So what's the big deal? Well, before it seemed the predator hunted people for sport, but now Shane has established that they want to hunt humans to help their own evolution. And Mauler's mocking this, saying, well, that doesn't make a whole lot of sense. How would taking the spine help their evolution? And clearly they don't need it. They're able to kill off humans very easily, so they're already dominant, etc., etc. I don't think he understands how evolution works by many ways. So let me lay out two issues here. One is his usual scientific illiteracy, and he keeps trying to draw upon this over and over again. So, for instance, he doesn't like The Last Jedi because it doesn't meet his idea of physics, but he doesn't really know physics, so he's spouting a whole lot of nonsense. And here he's sort of drawing in on biology, but does he really know biology? Does he know evolutionary theory? I have my doubts he understands this stuff. But even apart from that, how does this work with the story, right? It might not be scientifically accurate, but if it works with the story, then it could have been done better, but it's not a deadly sin to do this. So what is the issue? Well, presumably the problem is how or why would the predator use this evolutionary advantage? Well, again, evolution is not just the next 2 seconds, the next 2 weeks, next 2 months, next 2 years even. It's a process that spans billions and billions of years. I also find it really curious because his main thing is how Shane is ignoring the movies prior to this, but he himself does this. I mean, the humans have actually won against the Predator, right? In Predator 1 and 2, humans beat the Predator. Humans sometimes consistently beat the Predator. If you're the Predator as a species, that's got to be very curious. Because yes, on the whole, about 80% of the time they meet a human, the human is dead. Their kills are very, very high in terms of probability, but there are exceptions to the rule. So as an intelligent species, they might be curious, well, wait a minute, this makes sense. We usually win most of the time, but sometimes we do lose badly. We even die. So maybe there's something we could learn from this. Maybe we could learn from the species. This isn't just restricted to the Predator, and this happens all the time in science fiction. For instance, in Star Trek, the Q continuum clearly has way more power than most human beings. They seem to even have godlike abilities. They still seek out human contact and human conversation because they recognize these humans might have certain evolutionary traits they don't have. So it's to their advantage to study humans. So he's not making a very good conceptual point. just based on biology. But let's just think about the canon in the films. Now, I haven't seen this film, but in terms of the other films, well, we have to be honest, we don't know the predator culture. We only see very small parts of it. We just see them hunting, they gather trophies, they sometimes give a gift, but we don't really know them in detail. We don't even know this is representative of their culture. These could be fringe parts of their culture who are extremists. We don't know what the mainstream of this culture is. We only have a very small glimpse of what the predators are. Now, I understand what he's saying, and I'm sympathetic, saying, well, I prefer these predators. I don't like the idea of retconning them as these kind of evolutionary biologists or whatever, or anthropologists. Okay, I agree. I actually prefer the more simplified version of the predators. But as a matter of fact, using his own standard, we don't know in detail what is the predator culture or what are the rules. It could be they always were doing this. That was the aberrant case, right? Killing people for trophies. They weren't supposed to do that. They were breaking the rules. So, just as a point of logic, using his word in terms of how he uses movie logic, which I don't think is correct in the first place, but using how he uses movie logic, we don't know enough to say this is a bad idea or even this was stupid or a plot hole. We'd have to know a lot more about the predators, and almost none of the films are exhaustive. They give us some grounds for speculation, but we don't know the predator culture in full. So he has some good points here and there in this video, but as always, he's really just going on these huge non sequitur that last a whole 10 minutes, and you're like, but we don't even know if this is a problem. And you're not even dealing with more relevant issues. So you're like, what was the point of this whole thing? No, but again, it's getting millions of views, so I'm not going to lie. Clearly, something in this approach is worth emulating to make money, get more views, and be more popular. But did it really say anything deep or interesting about the Predator or the mythology or really help us understand the film? No, not really. He definitely proves there were some bad moments, but was this a bad movie using his own logic? That's not exactly clear, at least not so far.